What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker,
Amir, Rahimi.
and today on The Great Debaters, talking about one of the best albums of all time, Main Source, Breaking Atoms. All right, Amir, so we're back here on The Great Debaters, Main Source. Please hit that subscribe if you haven't already. Of course, that really helps us out. Now, Amir, man, Main Source, Breaking Atoms, phenomenal piece of work. Very excited we're talking about it at long last here. Breaking Atoms, how do you remember getting exposed to this project?
I remember seeing it on a bunch of lists of greatest albums ever made, and that's the first time I saw the cover.
Okay.
I didn't know the group at that time. I just remember seeing the cover and adding it, saying, okay, this is something that I'll buy eventually. And then obviously I ended up hearing Illmatic, and I heard the Genesis, and with some of his verse being on that intro, that was, I guess, the first time I heard something from this album. And that's the first way I suppose I got exposed to it, but I didn't buy it till years later. So let's just get into my first pick, and since we were just talking about it, we'll get to Live at the Barbecue for my first pick. And that is, so oddly enough, legendary song, legendary features, especially the main feature being Nas. And I had heard, before I'd ever heard that song, I'd heard the Genesis, I'd heard Big L's The Devil's Son, I had seen a bunch of rap documentaries where they'd brought up the song and just things like that. And the way that I try not to listen to songs unless I own the album or compilation that has a song or what have you, as I've described on other episodes. So I hadn't heard the song till years later.
Live on the Barbecue?
Live at the Barbecue.
Okay.
And the Breaking Atoms album, because that was just my rule. So I had always heard half of Nas's verse, and then when I finally heard the whole thing, I was like, damn, this is much longer than I thought, and I was very happy. So the way this guy starts his verse off, the way he continues it, the way he ends it, I mean, Nas is, to have this as pretty much your intro to the world is pretty wild.
It is his intro to the world.
Yeah, it's I can't imagine what people were thinking in 1991 when they get, how far into the album is it? It's
the second half.
Yeah, it's in the second half, almost the last track on the album. And it's you go through this whole thing, and then you hear Live at the Barbecue. I mean, that must have been crazy, because
it was.
To have the best or one of the best songs at the very tail end of the album is not always seen. So that must have been shocking. Nas kills it, and then it's crap, you have more features on the album. So you have Joe Fatal, Akinyele, you got Large Pro obviously delivering a verse. I mean, the Nas verse is just insanity. It's so good. It's sampled a bunch and referenced a bunch. And then I love the chorus too. It's super short and sweet. It gets you hype. The beat is awesome. Obviously, Large Professor and Akinyele have worked in the future. After this as well, you have Nas and Large Professor working in the future as well. So this song is important for many, many, many reasons. And then obviously they reference the barbecue later on other songs with Nas as a feature, as y'all would know. So MC Search. So it's super, super awesome song. I love the beat. I love the verses. Obviously Nas being my favorite. Rewind that thing, and yeah, man, that's one of my picks.
Live at the Barbecue, not surprisingly, is one of mine as well. Nas's verse has been analyzed, dissected, celebrated, as it should be, because it's amazing. And when your first words ever are Street's Disciple, and that becomes one of your album titles years later, that just lets you know the magnitude of this verse in a lot of people's minds, and then the song in general. Akinyele comes on there. It's his real introduction to the game, and then he has a successful career. Large Pro at the end, which I thought was pretty interesting, as well as awesome, that he's at the end of the song. Joe Fatal's in there second, and each one of them does a great job. They have their own highlights lyrically, but I think just the fact that the power of the song, Nas coming on and doing such an amazing job, and then Large Professor coming on last and doing like I milked your cow, milked your heifer, all that type of stuff toward the end. I was just kind of laughing. Like, the thing that we'll get to throughout the Breaking Atoms album is that Large Professor has a very distinctive and unusual phraseology and way of articulating things, which I think is one of the strengths of Breaking Atoms and one of the great things about Large Professor as a rapper. Yes, people talk about him all the time as a great producer, and obviously he's one of the best who have ever done it. Check out some of my interviews with Large Professor there. But the thing is, like, he's an amazing rapper and songwriter, as I'm sure, going to get to, whether we have the same 3 picks or some of the different ones. But amazing, amazing material. That's my first pick. What's your second pick, Amir, for Breaking Atoms?
Yeah, and also one thing I want to note is, like, just talking about the Nas verse again, like, some of his rhymes are just so wild, and it's like machine gun spray, where he says, like, kidnap the president's wife without a plan, and I'm just like, dude, how old is this guy? I was thoroughly impressed. We're gonna get into another song here, which is a single called Looking at the Front Door right here, which I don't know if you can see, but it's like a keyhole right here with the key, so it's hilarious. It's a little ridiculous, and they're standing in front of a door. Like, in case you didn't know, that's the name of the song. But, dude, this song is great, man. I love the sample on here. For some reason, I don't know why, I always catch this song stuck in my head. The chorus is always stuck in my head for some reason. Just the beat, and then just the voice you hear, and looking at the front door. It's just, for some reason, it's one of those songs you wouldn't expect to be stuck in your head. It gets stuck in my head. Don't know why. Great song to have stuck in your head because I love the song, but kind of like what Soren was just talking about with phraseology, I always thought the line was interesting where he said, "You treat me like a burnt piece of bacon." I was like, what does that mean? I was like, I don't know what that means. Like, maybe you get neglected because you don't eat the burnt piece. I'm assuming that's what it is, but
I know a lot of people.
I know people who love the burnt piece.
Love the piece.
That's all they eat. They just love the crispy bacon. So I'm like, okay. So that I didn't fully understand, but I was like, this song is awesome. And Large Professor too, where he's talking about how the woman gives him pain and strife and things like that, and on the outsider perspective, his friends are saying, he's blessed to be dating the most beautiful woman in the whole U.S. and stuff like that. He's saying, well, it's not all what you think. I like this girl, I love this girl, but she's not treating me with the respect. And instead of saying, like, he could take it one way and say, I'm leaving, or F you, or anything like that, but he's saying, I'm looking at the front door. And to me, that's pretty clever. I like that. And then also, in the song, he's not calling her profanity, he's not cussing at her, he's not doing anything like that. Like, he's expressing his way in a way where he's saying, I'm not content with where this is at, and you need to kind of fix this relationship as well. And he's basically saying, like, he's willing to leave, but he's not cussing at her, and he's not demoralizing her in any way. So I thought that was also pretty cool. But yeah, that's my second favorite, or second track from the album.
Looking at the Front Door is also one of my picks for a lot of what Amir said. Also, I like the fact that we get throughout Breaking Atoms a very diverse sonic assembly of songs, and this song, the production on it, beyond being brilliant, is also unlike anything else I think on Breaking Atoms. It has the very it has the melodic elements to it, but it also has the drums aren't so prominent as we get on, obviously, a lot of rap in general, but a lot of the stuff that we do get throughout Breaking Atoms. And then also, I like the fact that this is a love song, or a love song, I guess, but it's a song about women, and it's a relationship song is a better way to put it. But it has lots of scratching on it, which I was, Sir Scratch and K Cut do a great job throughout the album, cutting and scratching. So that brought an extra element to me that made Looking at the Front Door even better, because normally those type of songs are not laden with scratches. So I was very excited about that. And then I think generally speaking, this was still in 91. We're getting almost out of the era totally, but this was one of those last things where the guy, the rapper, was really showing a vulnerable, disappointed side. And of course, people have done it more on the emo side, I guess, more recently. But in this era, because of gangster rap and just street side of rap becoming such more prominent and dominant, as it began in the early 90s, we got a lot less of that as far as by big artists, by marquee artists that were doing great music and making thoughtful songs like Looking at the Front Door is. So of course there are examples to the contrary, but by and large, they were not being pushed as singles, they were not being promoted, they were not being made and released, I think, to the magnitude of the opposite end of the spectrum where, you know, women were looked down upon or being bashed, or like Amir said, it was more explicitly talking about a relationship gone bad. And this was a guy kind of feeling helpless or trapped, which is why he's looking at the front door in the first place. So anyway, I think this is one of the best songs on the album, clearly, and I think it's also one of those songs that doesn't get enough shine when people talk about great rap songs, great stories, great emotional explorations, all these things. So, phenomenal piece of work. Looking at the Front Door, that's my second pick. Amir, what's your third pick on Breaking Atoms?
Yeah, and it's honestly one of the best relationship songs I've ever heard, you know, just with the approach. Honestly, it's great, and the sample and everything. But my last favorite pick, it's tough, you know, it's not the longest album. It doesn't have the most tracks, I should say, but it is great. And one thing I do want to note is make sure you check out one of the CD versions that has extra tracks that are featured on the album as bonus cuts, like Time and Atom and Think. So, you know, and others as well. So, just in case you haven't heard these songs.
And one thing to that, some of these songs came out before Breaking Atoms, and then Faking the Funk, of course, came out famously later on the White Man Can't Jump. I think it was an EP. But the reality is this re-release, bonus edition, whatever it's called, has songs, ironically, before Breaking Atoms was released and after, which is relatively unusual. So... there you go.
Yeah, no, and definitely, especially if you like the album or like Main Source or whatever, definitely in case you haven't heard these songs, a lot of people don't know they exist, but to keep it now back with the album itself that we have, it's tough, it's such a good album, but we're going to go with Just a Friendly Game of Baseball. And I remember at first when I was looking at the track list, you know, when I was, you know, just listening to this album first, I'm like, okay, I'm just, you know, I just always look at the track list first just to see what the things are called. And I'm like, okay, this seems like a pretty innocent album just by looking at the track list. And then we get to Just Friendly Game Baseball, like, oh, they're probably going to talk about, you know, the Yankees or something, or the Mets, or it's going to be something like that, and they're going to have, you know, maybe like Master Ace kind of wordplay where he's like soda and soap, you know, just doing all these brands and players or whatever. That's what I was thinking. I was definitely wrong with my assumption, and I'm very happy I was wrong. Not that that style is bad, but dude, especially since I watch a lot of baseball, shout out to the Dodgers. So, especially since I watch a lot of baseball, this song is so good. I mean, he nails every reference. He has to be a baseball fan. He nails every reference. He says he doesn't like the White Sox and the Red Sox. He's got the Black Sox. RBI stands for real bad injury. You know, the way that he references the label Wild Pitch is awesome. Just
the foul ball. Everything is so good about this song. From a lyric perspective, it's fantastic. I think he interweaves these references excellently and somehow brings in police brutality and police, you know, it's him and his people versus the police department, and I think that is the whole system, really, and I think that is awesome. You know, it's not cliche at all. Like I said, I was fooled by looking at the title completely. That was awesome. Then we get to the beat, which is stupidly awesome. I already know Soren's smiling right there. You can hear him smiling. So This is an excellent song. Large Professor
like Soren was trying to say, or he did say in the beginning of this video, Large Professor obviously gets a lot of credit for his production, but he also needs to get a little bit more credit for his writing and his rapping, because he's really dope at all the above. So this beat is great, the way he goes over it's great, the concept is great, and we just talked about like 3 very different songs right here. I don't know what Soren's last pick is, but we talk about Live at the Barbecue, which is Large Professor and featured acts, and it's a classic. Then we get to Looking at the Front Door, which is a story song about relationships and him going at it from a slightly different angle, not cussing and all that, at his female partner. And then you have this song, which is about police. I mean, these are 3 songs, and you have so much more. I mean, there's just hanging out behind us. I need to stop. I'm gonna let Soren talk, but it's a classic. So that's my last pick.
Well, before I forget to check the link there, I had a benefit of talking to Large Pro about the cover of Breaking Atoms, which, like Amir was saying, with Just a Friendly Game of Baseball, it's an interesting story behind that. So definitely check that link on the cover story series if you haven't already. But you got Snake Eyes, one of my favorites. Just Hanging Out are probably my 4 and 5 picks. Just a Friendly Game of Baseball is my other top 3 picks.
Oh, well, there we go.
But the thing about this song is as Amir was saying, I'll build on some of the points, the brilliance of using this analogy of baseball and the police brutality comparison of, getting hit by the police with their bats and all this stuff. It's not only sad and sobering, but it's also brilliant and very visual, the way that Large Professor breaks it down, and then all the imagery of transposing what RBI means in baseball versus what RBI means in this song, or what he explains it to be, what it stands for. It's brilliant and masterfully done, I think. And then, as I said, with Looking Out the Front Door, the way the beat works in concert so well with what he's rapping about. It's, we've heard the sample used later especially, but by Tribe Called Quest used it on remixes, Compton's Most Wanted used it, Drive By Miss Daisy. But the reality is, when you hear that heft and that darkness, and then what he's rapping about is so in sync with that, that's the type of musical marriage that makes it so magical. And that's what I think Just a Friendly Game of Baseball is. It's just a phenomenal song, and sadly still resonates today as we see the instances of police brutality remain prominent in the news. And they're not unusual, unfortunately, and this is back in 91, we're in 2024, so that's obviously a horrific thing that happens in our society, but this is the type of examination of it that, when done at the highest level, I think really shows the impact and the fallout of what happens with police brutality. So for that, it's definitely one of my picks. And I think too, we've talked a lot about Large Professor's brilliance as a rapper producer, which we should. And also I had mentioned in passing, but I want to also reiterate throughout the album, Sir Scratch and K Cut do an amazing job cutting and scratching and delivering a lot of energy to Breaking Atoms, which I think, as someone who loves DJing, loves hearing it, loves watching it, and loves trying to dissect everything that the guys are doing, as I'm listening to the material, they did such an amazing job, Sir Scratch and K Cut, throughout Breaking Atoms, which adds a whole other dimension to the project. So I just wanted to shout them out for that as well. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up, Amir?
No, scratching is essential, and like you said, the energy and the pace is huge, so big shout out to them.
Yeah, so there it is. You guys got my top 3 picks. Hit us up in the comment section, let us know what you think. While you're there, please like, subscribe, and share to Unique Access Entertainment. That's free, of course, and you can also join the channel through different tiers, ways you could help support us there. Soren Baker,
Amir, Rahimi,
great debaters. Shout out, man, Large Pro, Sir Scratch, K Cut, phenomenal piece of work. Breaking Atoms.